In this video, we are going to be analyzing our customer group. More precisely, we are going to be performing segmentation as well as targeting of our current customers using clustering and segmentation method directly inside ChatGPT. You don't have to have any code knowledge here. We are going to be using ChatGPT plugin called Noteable, which lets you run Python directly inside ChatGPT. So then you can perform in-depth analysis as well as create visualizations directly in your chat. I have a whole playlist about ChatGPT plugins, so if you're interested, I'm gonna link it in the description. If you're interested in tech and AI, definitely subscribe down below because I post every single week and you get to learn new cool stuff in the world of tech and AI every single day. All right, let's get started. The first thing is that we go to GPT-4, and as I said, we are going to be using plugin. So we are going to click on plugins. We are going to be using ChatGPT plugin called Noteable. So if you don't have this installed here, you want to go to plugin store and then you want to go to the section all and you want to search through the pages till you find Noteable. Unfortunately, they still don't have any search bar here, so you simply just have to browse through the pages. You might be also able to find it in the section called popular here. Alright, so we want to activate it in this current chat. That is gonna happen if we click on this blue tick here. And as you can see here, we have 1 out of 3 plugins enabled in this current chat. The dataset that we are going to be working with looks like this. It's basically a database of 200 customers for a shopping mall. As you can see, we have 5 different columns. We have customer ID, which goes from 1 to 200. Then we have gender, we have age, then we have annual income in thousands. So it ranges from 15,000 per year as an annual income all the way to 137,000 per year. And lastly, we have a spending score. The score ranges from 1 to 100. And basically the spending score is something you assign to the customer based on, for example, different parameters like customer behavior and purchasing data. All right, so the first thing is that we have to go to our app on Noteable and we have to upload this data set into our project. If you don't know how to set this up, I have a full tutorial how you can get started with Noteable. I'm going to link it down below, but simply here we created a project that is called ChatGPT test. We are going to hit the upload button and we are simply going to drag and drop the dataset here. We can close this down. And right now what we are going to do is that we are going to click on these 3 dots and we are going to click on copy path. We are going to use this in our prompt, so this is important. So the Noteable plugin knows which dataset we are talking about. All right, and this is the prompt that we are going to use. Please use the dataset uploaded on Noteable with the path, and here is where you actually paste your path of the dataset. I'm then trying to describe a little bit more about what the dataset includes. You are owning a shopping mall. Through membership cards, you have some basic data about your customers like customer ID, age, gender, annual income, and spending score. Spending score is something you assign to the customer based on your defined parameters like customer behavior and purchasing data. I then define the problem statement. You own a mall and want to understand the customers. This includes understanding their behavior, segmenting the market using clustering methods, as well as who to target. So we are going to send this. And right now we are going to get an answer to how we can proceed to solve this problem statement. Sure, we can use clustering techniques to segment your customers based on their behavior and purchasing data. This will help you understand your customers better and target them more effectively. Here are the steps we will follow. Load the dataset, perform exploratory data analysis to understand the data better, pre-process the data if necessary, handle missing values, normalize the data, and so on. Choose a suitable clustering algorithm, train the clustering algorithm, analyze the results, and interpret the customer segments. Let's start with the first step, loading the dataset. I will create a new notebook in Noteable and load the data from the CSV file. As you can see, we can click on the arrow and see what it has been doing behind the scenes. Great, I have created a new notebook for our analysis. You can follow along with the work here. So if we go here, we automatically have a new notebook here that we can click on, and then we are redirected to the notebook and we can see the changes happening in real time. Now let's load the data from mall_customers.csv file. Now there is a first obstacle. It seems like the kernel is still launching. Once it's ready, we can run the cell to load the data. I will try running the cell once again. It ran the cell once again and it seems like it worked, so the data has been successfully loaded. Here are the first few rows of the dataset. So here we get the first 5 rows of our dataset, how it looks like. Then ChatGPT is going to describe this dataset. The dataset contains the following columns: customer ID, gender, age, annual income, spending score. Now it says, let's perform some exploratory data analysis to understand the data better. We'll look at the distribution of different variables and their relationships with each other. As you can see, it stopped generating, and the reason why is that this message is getting too long. So we can just write, please continue. And the plugin is successfully being used once again. And it's done with the exploratory data analysis. Here are the results of exploratory data analysis. There are no missing values in the dataset, which is correct. The dataset contains 200 customers with ages ranging from 18 to 70 years. The average age is approximately 39 years. The annual income of the customers ranges from 15,000 to 137,000, which is correct, with an average of approximately 61K. The spending score ranges from 1 to 99, with an average of 50. So we have a bar chart here, we have male and female, then it generated a distribution of the age. We also got a chart of an annual income distribution. So we can see that most of the customers are within the first half, so ranging from 15K till 80K. Spending score distribution. Here we can see how many customers are within each spending score. Next, we can proceed to the pre-processing stage. In this case, we might want to encode the gender variable since it's categorical variable. We also might want to normalize the numerical variables to ensure that they are on the same scale. This is especially important for clustering algorithms, which are distance-based. As you can see, the message got too long once again. We have a lot of visuals as well text. We are just going to write down, sounds good, please continue. And again, I'm not doing anything right now. I'm simply typing down the prompts and the work is done directly inside the Jupyter Notebook for me. Alright, so it looks like the pre-processing has been completed, the gender variable has been encoded, and the numerical variables have been normalized. Here are the first few rows of the pre-processed dataset. Next, we can proceed to the clustering stage. We will use the k-means clustering algorithm, which is popular choice for clustering tasks. We will need to determine the optimal number of clusters, which we can do using the elbow method. This involves running the k-means algorithm with different numbers of clusters, and choosing the number that results in the smallest within cluster sum of squares, which is a measure of cluster's compactness. So here it's describing what we are going to do next. If you don't know any of these terms, don't worry, you don't have to know this. I do know all these terms because I've been studying marketing for the past 5 years, but you don't have to have specifically knowledge about what k-means mean, what is the elbow method, and what is the elbow rule. Here you can just leave it to make Python perform the segmentation for you. We are going to write continue. Alright, and we got the first plot. Here's the plot of the within cluster sum of squares for different numbers of clusters. This plot is also called the elbow method, and it's successfully describing it here. The elbow in the plot, which is the point of maximum curvature, represents the optimal number of clusters. In this case, it appears that the elbow is at 5, so we will use 5 clusters for our k-means algorithm. Now let's train the k-means model with 5 clusters and assign each customer to a cluster. We are going to write please continue. If we go back to our notebook, we can see that it has normalized all the scales as well as turned the gender into zeros and ones. Alright, and right now it looks like the k-means model has been trained and each customer has been assigned to a cluster. Here are the first few rows of the dataset with the cluster assignment. We can see that the cluster here says just zeros, but there are 4 other clusters. We can see that the first 5 rows are showing just a cluster 0, and that can be because the dataset is distributed from the lowest income earners to the highest, and the customers, for example, at the end of the data set in the final rows are going to be in a different cluster. Now let's analyze the clusters to understand the characteristics of customers in each cluster. We can do this by calculating the mean values of the variables for each cluster. I'm gonna just write down, please do that. All right, so it's done. And right now it's basically summarizing all the clusters for us. Here are the mean values of the variables for each cluster. We can see we have 5 clusters. The first one, we don't necessarily have to have an average of customer ID because it doesn't make sense, but that's fine. We have gender, then we have age, annual income, spending score. These scores are basically normalized, so it's just not showing the true income in thousands of dollars, so keep that in mind. We also get the number of how many people are within each cluster, and there are around 40 customers in each cluster. Here's a brief interpretation of the clusters. Cluster zeros, these customers are younger with lower annual income and average spending score. There are 40 customers in this cluster. Cluster 1, these customers are slightly older with high annual income and average spending score. There are 41 customers in this cluster. Cluster 2, these customers are of average age with average annual income and slightly lower spending score. There are 39 customers in this cluster. Cluster 3, these customers are slightly younger with higher annual income and average spending score. There are 40 customers in this cluster. Cluster 4, these customers are older with lower annual income and slightly higher spending score. There are 40 customers in this cluster. This information can be used to target different customer segments with personalized marketing strategies. For example, customers in Cluster 1 who have high annual income could be targeted with premium products, while customers in Cluster 0 who are younger could be targeted with trendy products. I'm going to just write down, please continue. And right now it knows that it should visualize the results. So it says now that we have our customer segments, we can visualize them to get better understanding of each group. We will create scatter plots of annual income versus spending score and age versus spending score for each cluster. This will allow us to see how the clusters are distributed with respect to these variables. Let's do that. All right. Here are the scatter plots of annual income versus spending score and age versus spending score for each cluster. Clusters of customers based on annual income and spending score. We have this nice scatter plot. So here we can see that we have annual income on the x-axis, then we have spending score on the y-axis. You can see that the numbers have been normalized, so it's easier to work with them. But you can clearly see where the clusters are. So here we have the cluster 0, we have the cluster 4, we have cluster 2, then we have cluster 3, and then we have cluster 1. Here we have clusters of customers based on age and spending score. Here we get the explanation. From the scatter plots, we can see that customers in cluster 1, green, have high annual income and high spending score. These are the premium customers. Then we have customers in cluster 0, which is purple, have low annual income but high spending score. These are the impulsive customers. So it even categorized them with these nice words like premium, impulsive, and so on. Customers in cluster 4, which is yellow color, have moderate annual income and moderate spending score. These are the average customers. Customers in cluster 3, which is the blue color, have high annual income but low spending score. These are the frugal customers. Customers in cluster 2, orange color, have low annual income and low spending score. These are the economical customers. So those are the ones who are trying to save the money because they have a very low annual income as well as low spending score. In terms of age, younger customers tend to have higher spending score, while older customers have lower spending scores. However, there is no clear relationship between age and annual income. And it kind of makes sense because this one is not putting age and annual income, but spending score. The spending score is basically how much you are spending, so it can be correlated with the annual income. But you can clearly see that between age and spending score, there is not really a relationship here. The information can be used to develop targeted marketing strategies for each customer segment. For example, premium customers could be targeted with exclusive offers and high-end products, while impulsive customers could be targeted with sales and discounts. Average customers could be targeted with mix of products, while frugal customers could be targeted with value for money products. Economical customers could be targeted with budget-friendly products. So here is where you get the most value out of using ChatGPT and Noteable plugin, is that you get this analysis, but then ChatGPT can actually analyze the data for you and recommend you the next steps. Right, we are going to say, please continue. And now that we have good understanding of our customer segments, we can think about specific strategies to target each group. Here are some suggestions. And basically it gives us some suggestions for each cluster. So for example, cluster 1, offering exclusive premium products or services, providing excellent customer service to enhance their shopping experience, inviting them to VIP events, or giving them early access to new products. Cluster 0, offering sales and discounts to encourage purchases, providing financing options or loyalty programs to make products more affordable, marketing trendy, must-have products that appeal to their impulsive nature. Cluster number 4, offering wide range of products to cater to their diverse needs, providing value for money products that offer good quality at affordable prices, engaging them with informative content about products to help them make informed decisions. Cluster number 3, offering value for money products that provide high quality at reasonable price, providing detailed product information to help them make informed decisions, offering loyalty programs or discounts on bulk purchases to encourage spending. Last cluster is number 2. We should offer budget-friendly products that provide good value for money. We should provide discounts or sales to make products more affordable for them. And we also should offer budgeting tools or tips to help them manage their finances. Remember, these are just suggestions and the actual strategies should be tailored to the specific needs and preferences of your customers. It's also important to continuously monitor and adjust your strategies based on the customer feedback and changing market conditions. So based on the data, it was able to provide us this valuable feedback on the next steps and what we have to do with our marketing strategies. All right, so it seems like we have the understanding, we know what to do, but the important thing here is that on this visual, we don't necessarily know which customer is in which segment. So what I think is super important and super helpful here would be to write down something like this. Please, now that the customers are segmented, provide a list of all 5 clusters. For each cluster, write down a list of the customer ID so I know which customer is in which segment. I think this makes sense because then, for example, if we want to email them some campaigns using these strategies and tips that ChatGPT recommended, we can basically divide the customers based on the IDs, create the clusters, and maybe send bulk emails to them with different offers. So I'm gonna send this. All right, and it seems like it's being generated right now. So here's the list of customers in each cluster. We can see cluster 0 and all the customers and their IDs that are in this cluster. We then even get a recommendation once again. You can use these lists to target specific customers based on their cluster assignment. For example, if you want to send a promotional email to your premium customers, you can use the list of customers in cluster 1. So this is kind of funny because it's exactly what I mentioned before. It's recommending that we can use this information to, for example, send bulk emails to these customers with the actions that ChatGPT recommended to us. And if you are wondering why it's clustered very nicely, the reason why is that if we look at the data set, we can see that basically the customer IDs are going from 1 to 200 and the annual income is also starting from the lowest all the way to the highest. So that's why it looks like this. All right, if you enjoyed this video or if you learned something new, please give this video a thumbs up. If you are interested in tech and AI, definitely subscribe down below. I post every single week. Thank you so much and have a great day.